Hello, Danny. Welcome to Signal from Noise.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm very good.
Super. As you know, Danny, from our conversations, I started this podcast to help us, get us to more signal from all the noise as it pertains to AI in the broader real estate value chain, as well as in a couple other adjacent industries, call it more legacy industries. So I thought it would be great to have you and share your perspective with the folks listening in. But before we get into the, nitty-gritty details and the juicy meat, tell us your story. What's your background? What's your professional journey been?
Well, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Novade. It's a construction field management software company that started actually 11 years ago, back in Singapore. Prior to doing this, I was a long time ago born in Europe. I started my professional career on the shipyard, um, and I spent the last 25 years of my life in Asia, and out of which, 12 years were spent working for Autodesk. So I've been
Super.
in the construction tech space for more than 25 years. Yeah,
Before it was called construction tech, right?
that's right. Yes. Yeah.
And I would have never guessed the European bit. I'm kidding. So Danny, after the stint with Autodesk, I'm sure at some point in time there was some sequence of events that led you to move on and say, "Hey, I want to start a company in this space." Tell us about that journey. What was the genesis of starting Novade?
Yeah, it was about, 11, 12 years ago. At that time, the mobile phones, the smartphones actually were only recent when you think about it. And I think more and more people were thinking that those small devices could be used on construction sites. So really, that's the trigger, which is I was working for Autodesk, managing, Asia, emerging markets, lots of conversations around BIM, design, construction already at that time. But it's clear that mobile devices were providing an opportunity to help people and company in that space to digitize field processes. And I remember at that time when I started in the shipbuilding industry, it was all about process, digitizing processes, quality controls, etc. And actually process and digitizing stuff 10, 15 years ago was not necessarily very straightforward in the field. So I felt like there was an opportunity, there was a technology change with the mobile devices and a need, pretty significant need from contractors across the world to help them run their operations. Yeah, so that was the starting point.
Got it. And as I gathered, this was literally the Singapore equivalent of a few guys in a garage somewhere in the suburbs starting this company. And I guess the initial starting point was point A, and then it's kind of evolved over a period of time.
Yeah, so I restarted from scratch. The at the end of my uh, work at Autodesk, I was just spending my life in planes and going from place to another place to the other. So I felt I needed to be grounded, and that's what I did. So I would say the first year, not much happened. I spent a lot of time just discussing with clients, going on sites. I visited hundreds and hundreds of construction sites, trying to understand what the issues were. I discovered a lot of things. In fact, the story changed, as you mentioned it, because when you're in the design world and tech, you thinking about how you can help companies to use BIM models to improve their stuff. I figured out after very quickly that things were very simple. And anything we would do would have to be extremely simple and easy to use. If not, you won't go very far. And that's kind of the starting point for Novade. So from day one, we wanted to digitize field processes using mobile devices, using the data to make sense of what's going on. Hasn't changed. But on the way, we've learned a lot about what the use cases are, what the pain points are, and how we can solve them with technology.
So you make a very interesting point. I think I've been in this value chain for about 15 years, and one often wonders, is it the most complex hi-fi solution that's required, or is it the more sort of sensible, immediate point solution value that clearly adds, a return on investment to the client that matters? And I think that's an ongoing debate about platforms versus point solutions. But the interesting point also is about sometimes it's just about a solution that really solves a simple pain point that works, and then scaling from there. So what are a couple of twists and turns in that journey then in terms of use cases, Denny?
Well, I was spending a lot of time on various sites, and very early also I travel and spend some time with clients in Europe, in China, in Japan. So I wanted to make sure that whatever we design and architect would not just only work in one country, multiple countries. So I would say it was a long journey, because one of the pitfalls I've seen from many tech companies is they start in a country, they try to address one use case, and they're challenged to scale because they haven't thought through, whether the features they're developing are universal, right? So very early we did that. So we really created an understanding of what field management means across the world.
Mm.
And we found that anywhere in the world, you had at least three very common use cases. The first one was how to manage progress on a site. The second one was how to manage quality controls. And the third one, which today is maybe the most important for us, is how to manage safety compliance. Yeah. So you start your day, you want to make sure it's going to be safe. During the day, you do a lot of quality controls. You make sure that what you build is as per the plans. And at the end of the day, you report your progress and your work. And so that's very universal. You find this anywhere in the world. And that's what we do at Novade. We just focus on these three use cases. We just want to make sure we're the best at doing this.
No, that really resonates. In my previous world, we used to talk about every construction project has four risks, right? Time, cost,
Yeah.
quality, and safety, right? And I gather you've been veering more towards the safety side, or is that, is that the pointy edge of the spear or pointy tip of the spear?
Safety is interesting because if you had asked me, 11 years ago when I started, that was not necessarily the focus or the priority, but it's just the clients who've led us this way,
Mm.
um, and technology also. So, we at the end of the day, before you get started your job, you have to make sure that you do all your controls and permits and toolbox meetings. So there's a lot of what we found out is across the world, there's a lot of paperwork, administration, compliance that take place. It's very time consuming. And what we do is we help our clients to solve this, right? So I would say for the first 7 or 8 years, what we were doing is putting in the field a mobile application and desktop application that helps our client to just make it faster, easier, save cost, reduce administration cost. What we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years is that data we are capturing starts to make
Mm.
a lot of sense. And that brings us to one of the topics you want to cover today, which is AI, right? But that's, if I simplify it, we focus quality, progress, and safety. And safety is really where our clients draw us because there's so much need to simplify the way safety compliance is done on a construction site.
Got it. So let's do this, Denny. Tell us a little bit, sort of, broad brushstrokes about Novade, size of the company, uh, how many people, product lines, and so on. And then let's segue more into the AI bit that you were just talking about. How do you deliver that value? What's the ins, what's the outs, and so on.
Yeah, sure. So basically, we are, construction field management software provider, solving three use cases. We operate about half of our business in Europe and half in Asia. We are specialized. We've over time become specialized in fairly complex, large projects and complex processes. And what differentiates us from many, many other companies doing this is ability to digitize any process and then make sense of the data which is collected either through analytics dashboards or in recent years using AI predictive models to help predict high-level risk situations on construction sites.
Super. So the last bit that you said, the high risk safety situations and data models, tell us how you're actually building that. And then, we can get into how you're selling it and how it's being used.
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. From the beginning, we had in mind that it was all about process and data. So the way we've architectured our system, it's not just a mobile app. It's really a tool, a platform that captures data very easily. And there was always the goal that one day, with all this data, we're going to be able to provide insights to our clients. But we've never really managed to, until recently, to crack the code on this. A couple of years ago, I got a call from a public agency in Singapore. In Singapore, it's about 70% of the large contractors use Novade. So we've become kind of a standard for quality controls and safety compliance. And they were interested to explore whether AI could be applied to the construction sector to solve some of the issues around productivity, safety, and quality. And I mentioned that Yeah, it's possible, but in order to do this, it's in theory possible, but you need to get good data, you need to work with the contractors, and you need to hire a bunch of pretty smart engineers to put this together. They actually offered us some funding to do this, which was great. So here we go. So what we did is we basically hired a team of super smart engineers, collaborated with some large clients here, and we started with a very focused objective, which is trying to solve three questions. Is it possible to use the data in the field to predict delays? Is it possible to use the data in the field to predict quality issues? And is it possible to use the data collected to predict safety accidents? On the first case, we did not, and we have not yet found any evidence that models can work. Maybe it's the data we collect is not good enough. The truth, it's a very, very complex problem to solve.
Mm-hmm.
On quality, we are very close to cracking the code on this. And safety, it was slightly more than 18 months ago. Something amazing happened because one night, I remember it was in December. It was actually 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, right? One of the analysts came back and told me, Denis, I have a model which can predict accidents with risk with an 80% accuracy. I look at him and says, 80%? That's not possible. It's like, seems amazing. It's like, really, are you
Too
sure?
good to be true.
So I asked him to go back to his model. The model was right. So what I did next is I called the company we were partnering with and he had done the analysis with, and I asked him, hey, do you think, we are collaborating with you on this. Can you have a look at it? Because I'm really puzzled by this. And, I'd like to get your assessment. 3 weeks later, he came back and he actually told me, yeah, you know what? I think that's very much possible that this model works because the type of data that Novade collects is able to measure changes in behavior. And he's told me that, I believe that safety is all about behavior, right? So if the behavior changed, your risk goes up, and it's pretty much possible that, an AI predictive model would be able to guess or predict this, right? So that was the start of the journey. So it turned out that yes, it was accurate. The model was incredibly accurate, and we've not only managed to operationalize that with our clients, but since then we've signed up, engaged other clients, larger companies, and we're getting repeat models that again and again are able to predict accident rates very very high levels. So super exciting. I think it's a paradigm shift in the way we look at safety. I believe it's unique. I haven't seen any other company doing this. There's been a lot of research around this by universities. Some companies I've tried to put simple correlations in place that sometimes work, right? But the way we've done it with models and the level of accuracy is just simply unique.
So the comment you made about the three use cases, right? Obviously, we'll delve more into safety, but you mentioned quality or close to cracking. Would love to do that on a follow-up podcast at some point. But the one on delays also resonates with me because I think there's so many variables going in terms of what's happening on a job site, right? That might be the hardest code to
Yeah.
crack, if you will. So that really resonated with me. What also resonated is the piece around, the predicting with 80% accuracy and the value that it brings. So before we get to the value, tell us what is the inputs to the model then? What's the data that's getting collected on site and across what kind of sites?
It's the millions of records we collect through the mobile apps as our clients' users basically manage field processes, right? So
Hmm.
it's permits to work, toolbox meetings, inspections, observations, anything. So any piece of data that you collect on a construction site that can be used to build up these predictive models.
Got it. So mostly text though. Are you also including sort of audio, video, and images and so on?
Video is interesting. So there's also some video sources through what we've seen in the last couple of years is more and more sites being equipped with video analytics and AI. So you put these cameras and they're able to detect potential dangerous situation. And for us, this is basically a source of what we call observations. Okay, so it's an observation which is triggered, like for instance, this guy doesn't wear his helmet. Immediately there's a trigger. And we also collect this information. So we don't collect the video records, but we collect the fact that a camera has been able to detect automatically through Gen AI, Vision AI, an issue in the field. Yes. So we do this through third parties.
Understood. So then today, how is it being deployed on client sites then? I thought you said, if I remember correctly, it's already being deployed on client sites, right? The
Yes, it
AI
is.
perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
So how does that work then? What is the client getting in terms of, I'm assuming you're gathering all this data, running the models,
Yep.
you're doing the secret sauce in the cloud. How does it then get delivered to the client and what do they do with it?
The outcome is actually very simple. It's basically for the whole company, you look at all your sites, and it's a 30-day outlook, which identify which sites have the highest risk. Right? So it's a very one thing we've moved away from is 80% predictions, precision, accuracy, etc. When you start moving into predictive models, it's statistics. It's quite complex. It's not easy to communicate with people in the field. So when it comes to communication and the actual outcome, we try to keep it as simple as possible, and we just help a company with multiple sites to understand, okay, in the next 30 days, you should really watch out and pay attention to that site because the risk of accident is pretty high. That's what it is. We are also starting to provide 2 or 3 indicators that explain why we believe that this site has a high risk of accidents. These are not causalities, but mostly correlations. Yeah, that
Hmm.
help them also to do a little bit more investigation. So that's what we're able to do today. But I need to clarify that we can do this with clients who are collecting a lot of data, who are highly digitized and have like thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of processes managed in the field with the Novade application, right? If you don't have much data, you're not going to be able to do much.
So that leads me to think the more complex and large the project and the more sort of a client is up on the digitization curve, the better they can derive the value from a Novade.
Yeah, that applies really to large operations. It could be a few large projects or 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 employees working on multiple projects. But yes, you need scale. You need scale because it's statistics, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And generally, is your sense that, as you have gathered more data, I know you don't want to necessarily go down confidence levels and so on, but generally, do you think the models are getting more robust or you kind of sort of plateaued out and said, you know what, I think we've gotten to a stage where, this is more than enough in terms of the value that it can add?
So the interesting part about this is that if you do well your job, the accuracy of the model doesn't matter. The only way you're going to measure that this is working is whether you reduce accidents. Because if you
Mhm.
have, you know, less and less accidents or no accidents, then all your predictions are inaccurate. Okay, so I think that's something which is very important. And the way we look at it is, AI is a little bit of a buzzword.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's great that we can create these models that help to prevent accidents. It's really capture the mind of all the CEOs I talk to. It's really a paradigm shift. But to get there, it means that it's actually the icing on the cake, because if you can do this, it means that you've actually digitized very accurately all your field processes. By doing this, you capture, real-time information. We have analytical tools that already, provide good insights of what's going on in the field. And by doing this, you already improve your safety records and your compliance. So the AI is kind of a goal. It's a journey towards which you're going. But the biggest benefit is actually digitizing field operations, automating stuff, getting the insights and the visibility on what's going on. Yes, that's very important and this is how our clients, implement it. Yeah.
I think, Danny, you almost laid out like a roadmap for anybody who's in the AEC construction world to say, okay, how do I want to leverage AI, this buzzword? What's the journey to that? And I think it starts with saying having robust processes, digitizing
Yeah.
them, getting the data, and then, AI is the icing on the cake. And in this case, I think it's mostly around the machine learning side that you're talking about. I'm sure there's comparable sort of stories we can talk about at the Gen AI side. So you've got this deployed across multiple sites. And if you're saying, hey, the risk of site A versus site B, here's the sort of portfolio view, what's the impact that clients are seeing in terms of, are they changing behaviors and therefore seeing the change in metrics and KPIs on their end in terms of number of accidents or delays or what have you?
Yeah, it's a massive change in behavior, to be honest, because you have to, if you're a CEO of a large field construction operations, right? When you get hired, of course, you need to respond to the board, but you also need to make sure that you're going to run safe operations. And it's a
Yeah.
very stressful job because you never know whether you're doing enough, whether the compliance system in place are working or not. So what we are doing with this is that we provide at the HQ level a sense of risk level and visibility of where the issues are. Okay.
Hmm.
Again, the AI is telling you you have a risk, but the question is, why do you have a risk? And every time, so people start zooming in and they immediately say, yeah, I understand why the model is saying this. It's pretty obvious, right? So I think the change we are seeing is the connection between information from the field to the boardroom, the fact that you cut all the reports and all that stuff, you get real-time information that gives you real insights and goes all the way to the C level. And then after that, people know that they know, and then it dramatically changed the behavior. So this is a change in behavior just because you have the data and you can make sense of the data. That's really what it is.
And I think there's this again signal from noise kind of concept playing through, right? There's so much data now generated on job sites. I think the real value is in saying synthesizing it and delivering something that is actionable, understandable, and that can be impacted, right? And I think that's where the story that you're talking about seems to be going. Exciting stuff, Danny. So what's next at Novade, and where do you see things going on? Where do you things moving in the AI for the AECO space?
Yeah, I think that just before we go into this, you say, yeah, there's a lot of data generated in the field. Yeah, but most of this data is not accurate. So very often when when I discuss about companies saying, oh, you know what, we have a lot of data, we should use your model, I say, and we do an audit of their data. First thing they realize that very often actually this data is not accurate or it's done in the office after the fact. So yeah, there's a lot of data coming from the field, but a lot of data is actually not necessarily useful or relevant. There's a lot of improvement. So if you ask me, you ask me what's next, I think it's more of the same. You know, things Evolution is challenging in the construction industry because of the nature, the fragmentation, the length of the project. And so we're just on the early days of leveraging this kind of technology for our clients. It's working for a few. Our job is just going to be spreading the news and making sure more and more companies are able to leverage that technology. And of course, to answer now your question around AI, yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement around AI. I believe a bit of hype, but also reality. I like to make the difference between Gen AI and predictive models in our case, right? So predictive models is something which was there 10 years ago when I started, constantly evolved. And they are very interesting because if you have enough data and a lot of information, they can be quite accurate. And to me, that's the challenge, the opposite challenge of Gen AI. Gen AI is amazing, but accuracy is a concern and a question. So what I see a lot is clients, startups, other companies try to use LLMs to come up with analytics and data and stuff. It looks really nice at the beginning, but after a while, when you start checking the accuracy of all this, there's a lot of question marks. So I would say that AI is going to be used, but you're going to have different types of AI for different use cases, right? If you need to generate some content, great, use LLM. If you need something accurate, that's not the way to go. Vision AI, right? So the fact that you put cameras on sites and you can analyze the real time some of the videos and make sense of it, or do the same thing on photo. Very exciting also because it's going to save time. And predictive models are the ones we develop. So I see benefits and excitement, but people trying to use AI everywhere, I'd be very cautious, right? Yeah, I'd be very, very cautious. You need to know the pitfalls of the algorithms you use. Yeah.
Danny, that was very well summed up. I think that's a great sort of way to think about sort of where the value might be flowing to and how users of AI can think about where they want to deploy it. This has been a fascinating conversation. I felt like we really delved into the details here and got a lot of juice out of it, and hopefully a lot of signal from all the noise. Danny, thank you so much for coming on the
Sure.
podcast, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.